Good afternoon and welcome to our lesson today, where I would want us to talk about the trade union. So I hope by now you've managed to write all the notes, and that the only thing that maybe I would do now is to be able to explain further my notes. Okay, so I'm sure you've all heard about a trade union. Yeah, you've heard about uh, like nuts. You've heard about the giant trade union that is headed by somebody called Mr. Atoli. Yeah, Kotu. So those are what you call the trade unions. Yeah, these unions are basically meant to fight for the employees' rights. Okay, yeah, so basically it's an organization that is made up of members in an organization, and it's normally mainly the workers. Yeah, so it is a body that is formed to take care of the interests of the workers in an organization. So a trade union is very important in any working environment, yeah, because it is meant to protect the rights and interests of the members in their workplaces. Okay, so a trade union is meant to negotiate on agreements with employers on pays and conditions. So they do this on behalf of the workers. So it's an umbrella body that takes care of the interests of the workers. Okay, they are known to discuss major changes to the workplaces. Yeah, they're also meant to discuss workers or employees concerns with employers. Yeah, maybe workers are talking about the working conditions, maybe they are not very conducive. So this trade union, this body, yeah, negotiates with the employer on certain concerns that have been raised by the workers. So trade unions are very important, and they also provide members with legal and financial advice. Sometimes members could be going through certain problems, and they come in on board to comfort them, to encourage them, to give them advice on areas where they might have an problem. Okay, so these trade unions are very important in an organization, and mainly for the workers. Okay, so what we say, we also have something else that we are able to call the collective bargaining. Now, collective bargaining, so if a union is formally recognized by the employer, okay, it can negotiate with the employer over terms and conditions. So what happens when this now depends with people who works in the industries or people who works in companies, that perhaps there could be an issue, not now, in the future. So what happens is sometimes members or workers, yeah, have various concerns. So what happens when you join it's not a must that every organization that you will work for will have a union. Okay, there are those organizations that don't have unions, but in the event that you get to work in an environment where there's a union, it's normally voluntary. So you join that union, you have to make some collective contribution every month, so that in case you have issues, this union can come on board and be able to fight for your interests. So these unions are not free. You have to make some collective amount of money, perhaps every month, for them to be able to fight for you, or to be able to negotiate on your behalf in case there is a dispute. Okay, so this is very important. So we've got something that we call the collective bargaining. This is now whereby the employer, the union negotiates with the employer about terms and conditions of the workers. Okay, so this, for a collective bargaining to work, the union and the employer, need to agree on how to operate this union. So both parties must agree on the procedures and agreements between the employer and the union, and changing the terms applying to workers, like pay increase, for example, collective agreements. Okay, so how do you join a trade union? Remember, I say this is normally a voluntary option for the worker, but now there's a procedure on how you need to join a trade union. So we say some workers join the trade union. There are reasons why people join the trade unions. Okay, so some people or some workers join the trade union because they believe that these trade unions will negotiate a better pay for them. Like, for example, during every 1st May, we get to a lot of anticipation from workers, because people believe that KOTU will stand there and be able to negotiate the pay increment that is held every annually. It's done annually. So people join these trade unions with the hope that they will negotiate with them for them a better pay, a better working condition, provide training for new skills, give general advice and support. So those are some of the reasons why people join the trade union. So what are some of the rights, related rights when you join a trade union? So when you join a trade union, it will be unlawful, or it will be unfair for your employer to terminate you, unless there's a very genuine reason for them to terminate your contract. They have to follow certain protocol before they decide to dismiss you, okay, or to declare or to select you for redundancy. So there are different reasons why why these trade unions are important to the workers. Okay, then we say when a trade union is recognized by an employer, members have the right to time off. You get time off from your schedule, from your normal working hours. They also get appropriate time to take part in the trade union activities. Remember, this trade union also have got their own activities, so members sometimes would be required to avail themselves for this activity. So when you join a union, you get ample time for you to be able to participate in the union activities. You also get time to vote in the union election. Okay, then you also get to attend the annual conferences or to vote in ballots on industrial action. So when you get time, when you become a member of a union, you've got certain rights, and these rights are supposed to be obeyed by the employer. Because remember, we said the employer and the trade union have reached an agreement. So when they've reached an agreement, it means that you are able to enjoy certain privileges. But it doesn't mean also that you can go against your employer, because you have a union that will fight for your rights. Okay, so we've got different types of union. We've got what we call the craft union. So this craft union means that the members are drawn from workers employed in a particular trade. Like, for example, you've heard about the NAT, Kenya National Union Teachers. So this union, trade union, represent the interests of teachers. Okay, then you've also had a union that represents the doctors. You've also had the union that represent nurses. So craft unions are drawn members are drawn from particular trades. Okay, then of course we have the industrial union. So industrial union is membership is open to all types of workers engaged in one industry or a group of industry or service. So now these revolve around members or workers who work in particular industries. Okay, like maybe you can hear about a union that represent people who work in furniture industry, yeah, or who work in mills industry. Then we have the labor unions. Yeah, the labor unions membership is drawn to all workers irrespective of their occupation, skills, or industry. Now a union like COTU, Central Organization Trade Union. Now, this represents the interest of general workers, regardless of where they work. Okay. Then, of course, we've got the general union. These are unions that believe in solidarity of working class. Then, of course, you've got the blue collar workers union. These are people who are employed in offices. Yeah, then of course we've got the white collar workers union. Then we've got the reformist union. These are meant to unions, either business union or revolutionary unions, etc. Then under that we've got the business unions. So under the business union, we say they are the bread and butter unions that are aimed at securing economic interests of the members and follow methods of bargaining to accomplish their objective. Then we've got the revolutionary, which are opposed to capitalized industry and replace them with socialistic system through strikes, etc. Okay. Then I also gave you some notes on collective bargaining. This is where we say sometimes this is where the employer and the union come to an agreement, yeah, so that they're able to cover the interests of the workers, but at the same time also the workers are supposed to do what is expected of them. That's what we call the collective bargaining, which we say sometimes we have disputes between employees and employer, and this can be settled by discussion and negotiation between these parties so that to arrive into a decision. Okay, so we say the collective bargaining revolves around negotiation. Yeah, we talks about drafting, administration, interpretation of the documentation, organizational trade unions with open minds. So we've got forms of collective bargaining, which we say the workers' collective bargaining assumes various forms. In the first place, bargaining may be between the single employer and the single union. This is known as single plant bargaining. Then we've got the second one, which is between a single firm with several plants and workers employed in those firms. This is called the multiple. Then we've got the third one, that is instead of a separate union bargaining with separate employer, all the unions belonging to the same industry bargain through their federation. So what are some of the essentials that require, or the procedure that we need to follow when you have collective bargaining? Okay, so we need to talk about the existence of a strong representative, trade union in the industry that believes in the constitutional means of settling disputes. Yeah, you also need to agree on basic objectives of the organization between the employer and the employee, and on mutual rights and liabilities should be there. So what are some of the main features of collective bargaining? We say it is a group action. So group means it is represent an interest of several people. Okay, then it's also a continuous process. Yeah, we say it does not end with one agreement. After this agreement, they have something else they will look into. Yeah, we also say it is a process, and it consists of a number of steps that takes time takes time. They implement them, come back, review, etc. We also say it is flexible and mobile, and it is not fixed. Yeah, this means that changes can be made. It doesn't have to be rigid. Yeah, so even if we agreed on something today, we can still come back and review it. You can't say, oh, because we agreed on this, we can never change. No, there's always room for change. We also say it's industrial democracy at work. This is whereby members are allowed to join these unions at liberty. Okay, then it is a complementary and not a competitive process. Yeah, this means that the labor and management do not compete when negotiating for the same objective. Then you also say it is an art, and it enhances a form of human relation. So what are some of the means of collective bargaining? What are some of the ways that are used to collect or to bargain? Yeah, we say we've got collective, which we've got negotiation, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, etc. Yeah, so we've got certain steps in the process of collective bargaining. Say the creation of a trade agreement, the interpretation of that agreement, the enforcement of that agreement. So under the creation of agreement, we are trying to say that a union and management present their demands to each other, compromise their differences, and agree on conditions under which the workers are to be employed for the duration of the contract. Okay, so this is now where they are starting. They create an agreement. Then they will go into the interpretation of this agreement. They agree that this agreement should cover this, should not cover this, etc. Then, of course, the enforcement is now where they implement the agreement. So this is very important for us to be able to understand how the collective bargaining works. Of course, we've got the different theories that are revolved around collective bargaining. We've got the marketing concept and the agreement as a contract. We've got the government concept and agreement. We've got the industrial relations concept as jointly decided directive. So these are some of the theories that are associated with collective bargaining. Yeah, so we say we also have different roles that are played by different both the organization, the employer, and the trade union. So we've got different roles that are played by the management point of view, from the labor and the union point of view, from the government point of view, and of course we've got hindrances or challenges that are encountered when we have these collective bargaining. So some of these challenges uh, could be, sometimes maybe these people will never come back to agree. Yeah, so there could be some level of betrayal. We agree on something else, but it's not done, or it's done and then it is changed. Yeah, so it is important that when the employer and the union comes into agreement, whatever they agree upon should be kept. Yeah, it should be honored. Yeah, so we say we have certain factors or activities that act as hindrances to collective bargaining. So these are some of the things that makes it difficult for these parties not to agree. So we've got one of it where we say this competitive process. Yeah, so whereby the management and the labor compete each other at the negotiation table. So when you come to agree, you want your issues to be heard more, and the other party also wants to. So it's like they're all at the same level. Yeah, and they don't seem to agree. So some of these are the reason why we have these issues. We also say not well equipped. Maybe both parties, the management and the workers, come to the table without doing their homework. They have not carried out their study, so they're just going there. Now when they start raising their issues, you realize that there's a lot they have not done before. Then of course sometimes there's a outside leadership. Sometimes outside leadership means there are other people from outside who have interest. So this interest also affect the relationship between the employer and the union. Okay, of course we've got statutory provision where we say the the government agencies could have their own demands. Yeah, so sometimes these demands could also be difficult for them to be able to achieve them. So we say the collective bargaining has three types: agreement, which is arrived at voluntary; we have agreement between two parties, etc. So we say issues involved in collective, yeah, are at plant level. Reasons for growth, why we have a lot of collective bargaining that is happening, because it is a statutory provision, meaning government agencies are allowing it to happen. Then we say it's a voluntary measure, people choose to join this union at will, yeah, etc. So I hope up to that level should be able to understand what are trade unions, what are some of the advantages of collective bargaining. You know, it's sometimes one of the main advantage is that reaching a formal agreement between both sides, come to know exactly what is expected of them, and they are aware of their rights. Yeah, so both parties are aware of their rights. Yeah, so also employees who enter into this kind of collective bargaining have some sense of security. They know they cannot just lose their jobs like that. So sometimes also the same has got some own disadvantages. So some disadvantages is that it requires two parties to agree. You know, sometimes there could be issues of them not agreeing. Yeah, sometimes the union, you remember there's some amount that's supposed to be submitted to the unions, and this money is deducted from the worker. Sometimes the employer does not submit this money. So now when they don't submit this money, it is very unfair, because also the union need this money to run their businesses or to run their activities. Okay, so we also mentioned about the minimum wage, yeah, which we ask whether it is justified. And you know, what has happened is that most countries have set a minimum wage, yeah, a minimum wage, whereby, you know, most workers who work, they need to be paid a certain amount. Yeah, you cannot go beyond that amount. Yeah, and I think in Kenya we also have the minimum wage, but now this has changed over the period of time. But it is important for us to be able to understand what is a minimum wage. Is it justified for us to have that minimum wage? Yeah, but you see the problem is because there's a lot of unemployment. Sometimes you might not be able to give a minimum wage. Yeah, because you see most people are not working. So when they get an opportunity to work, sometimes they don't even consider the minimum wage. Okay, so up to that point, I hope I've been able to explain myself clearly on the collective bargaining, a trade union, different types of trade union, the processes of collective bargaining, advantages and disadvantages of this up to that point. And I've always said, in case there are issues that you don't understand or you want to seek some clarification, please feel free to contact me and I'll be able to guide you accordingly. Otherwise, I wish you guys a very nice afternoon and a very nice weekend ahead. Bye for now.